looking at the hurdlers, Nick was mentioning Grand Duo from the Henderson yard. The sort of buzz horse in the Racing Post all week seems to have been West Wizard in Nicky Henderson's stable tour. He's raving about this horse and is already anti-post favourite for the Supreme Novices. What do we know about him? What do we think of him?
Yeah, I mean, Nicky's probably regrets now saying what he said about this horse. When I went to the Owners Open Day, and that was obviously one he picked out and showed everyone, and was really proud of him. And yes, he's a seriously fine-looking horse. But on what he's done, 7-1 favourite for the Supreme. I know I'm a bookmaker, but that's ridiculous. It's insanity. Yes, he's going to probably run on Sunday, I think, in the 2 mile and half a furlong race, and maybe we'll see a fantastic performance. But he'll need to be. He's up against Sea Lord, who's already rated 150. So if he can do it on the track over hurdles, great, fair enough. But there's not much scope in that price to contract. I don't think. We're talking a long way off, and we're talking one of the hardest races to win at the festival.
And he has a notoriously bad record in that race as well, doesn't he, Nicky Henderson?
Yeah, don't remind him, please.
I think.
Yeah, Sprinter Sacra.
I know Barry Geraghty does the At the Races blog with us. He's been singing about this horse now for a while. Some of it hasn't gone into the blog, alright, but he's a big fan. But that's just to make a point. I don't understand why all these trainers and jockeys and that say these crazy things about horses. If they're that good, just leave them do the talking on the track, because they put a lot of pressure on themselves and on the horse as well. And then I think horses just get unfair stick. Camelot probably the best case in point I can make.
I mean, Richard, looking at that division, the sort of 2 mile novice hurdlers, who do you see as the ones at this stage? I mean, we obviously don't know an awful lot about any of them at this stage, but who are the ones that you can see sort of being the big threats?
There's one at a big price at the moment, a horse that you'll be aware of, Regal Encore, was second at Cheltenham in the Champion Bumper. AP does some work for William Hill, and he makes no secret of the fact that this horse is one he absolutely loves, and was bitterly gutted when that horse got beaten at Chepstow. Maybe the winner's very good. The Hobbs horse, God Love Victoire.
They don't have the benefit of hurdle in mind in about 7 or 8 weeks now.
No comment. But it's trained by Anthony Honeyball, not by Nicky Henderson. So, but no, AP loves this horse, and I think once he gets his act together, Regal Encore could be a serious player.
And talking of last year's bumper, I mean, there's the winner, Briar Hill, Declan. He's surely going to be towards the 4 in these kind of races.
I don't think he will be going in the Supreme though. He'll be a Neptune, or he'll be an Albert Bartlett horse if he's good enough. I think in 20 years of the bumper, he's got the 3rd largest victory. Only Dunguib and Q-Card have scored by larger distances than him. He's well bred, this horse. I think he's a half brother to Boston Bob, obviously, who Willie knows well. Really like this horse's attitude. Another horse who'll only do enough. Went off 25-1 for the bumper just because he's so lazy at home. I think he was the 5th or the 6th choice of the Mullins horses for the bumper team, and he only got in because one of the Clondaws got injured, and he got in, and he ended up running away with it. He saves his best for the track. He'll be a serious horse this year, but he won't go in there. I'll be very, very surprised if he goes in the Supreme. You can back him with me for the Supreme.
Any other Irish horses that you sort of particularly got your eye on?
Willie Mullins has a ridiculously strong hand in this novice hurling division this year. Briar Hill. He's got a horse called Moyle Park as well, who won the big bumper at, I think was it Ferryhouse or Punchestown, one of the right-handed tracks. He was carrying 12 stone. Was given lumps of weight away to a horse at Gigginstown called Wrath of Titan, so I think it's since won. He looks a machine. Big talking horse from the Mullins yard is another horse called Faugheen, whose form was franked. I think it was yesterday or the day before up in Ayr. Mullins Union Jews is another. He's Willie Mullins in the novice the hurdle department is very, very, very strong this year. I can give you a couple of dark horses at the end. They're kind of all quite obvious. I think people know a lot about them. I think we're going to do kind of dark horses later. I can give you a few more. But Willie is, he's ridiculously strong in this department this year again.
And looking at the English trainers, Nick, any sort of standout novice hurdlers for you?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. We might actually see an early clash on Sunday between Westwood and David Pops, the Liquidator, who I think has only went on to win at Punchestown. Really good bumper there, the second and third of Frank the form since, so that was strong, and I really liked his comeback at Carlisle, first time out over hurdles, measured them really, really well. One, as you'd expect him to, he's long odds on and there wasn't much in the race, but in terms of hurdles debuts, it was very, very good, and I'm looking forward to seeing him at Cheltenham over the weekend. I'm not quite sure what his best trip will be. I think he might be better going up in trip eventually, but I expect a very strong performance from him on, I think it's Sunday he's entered. So the Liquidator, very, very exciting horse for me.
And just one to mention, Tiger Cliff, the Ebor winner, he's now in training with Alan King. How do you think he'll get on? Do you see him making an impact?
Yeah, very much so. I think he's the kind of horse, you never know when these flat horses have shown their best in handicaps like he has. You wonder if they're going to make top novices, or if they're going to get into like the Coral Cup off a decent mark and then go and sluice up in that. And it's quite a funny evil this year because Ted Veal, the horse in fourth, who was well factored for that race, could run over fences at Cheltenham and make his debut this weekend, taking a completely different path to Tiger Cliff, but both interesting horses.
Yeah, and just while we're on the subject of hurdlers, actually, we've spoken about obviously Hurricane Fly and the Irish hurdlers. We haven't really spoken about the English hurdlers. I mean, certainly the new one I know is one you're very keen on. Do you see him as a champion hurdler in waiting?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Yeah, even at this stage, I see him as the Christmas hurdle winner. We haven't mentioned the Christmas hurdle yet, but I think that's the plan for the new one. I think he'll win that. I thought he looked very, very good when he absolutely thrashed Rock on Ruby last time out. He beat a load of old, future chasers in the Neptune investments, and he's just a very, very impressive horse in everything he does. And he's owned by two lovely people, and it's great. They've got two horses in training with Twiston Davis. They've got that one and Little Pop, who runs at the weekend as well. And it's just quite refreshing. They're not Gigginstown, they're not JP McManus, but they're just two lovely people who've happened to own a fantastic horse. And I'd dearly love to see the new one win at Cheltenham. And I really think he can. Twiston Davis isn't normally associated with that kind of horse, but that's not to say that, that's not to denigrate the new one. He can do it, I'm sure he will.
And Richard, one we saw winning the other day, Melodic Rendezvous, got a bit of a jump to make if he's going to be, top class over hurdles. But can you see him being in the mix, sort of?
In the mix, yes.
Races?
Winning a champion hurdle, I'd be disappointed in the current era if he was good enough to win a champion. To finish in the first 3 or 4, yeah, perfectly. He's a solid, real solid, consistent, and he jumped really well at Wincanton. That was that impressive part for me on a track that probably wouldn't have favoured him. That was a good effort.
And what about My Ten Till Yours?
Yeah, now that's this is a horse that frustrates Nicky. Probably the most talented horse in his yard in terms of real speed over hurdles, but and this sounds crazy, but possibly too much speed. They couldn't believe he got beaten in the Supreme last year, but that was because it became a slog, because he had to battle and fight, and he did. He got beaten. People shouldn't forget. He only got just headed on in the last 50 yards by possibly a very good horse. So I wouldn't give up on him at all. He'll have a light campaign, but he's got so much class, and maybe with another year on his back, he'll just have that enough stamina to see him up the hill. But no, he's a lovely horse to watch.
We certainly wouldn't class him as a dark horse, but I really want to get sort of all your views on horses that might have slipped under the radar, ones that wouldn't necessarily be at the forefront of everyone's attention at this time of year. Richard, we'll start with you. Any sort of dark horses, progressive handicappers, or anything like that we should keep an eye on?
I'll certainly give you one that's going to run this weekend. It's one I know a lot about because of the people I'm involved with. It's called Bally Alton. He's got 2 entries at Cheltenham, one on Saturday, 2 mile 5, and one on Sunday in that 2 mile half furlong novice hurdle. This horse could be just very, very, very good. He's trained by Ian Williams. He's owned by John Westwood, Lee Westwood's dad. Lee bought it as a Christmas present for him 2 years ago. He just won an Irish point when we got him. He won 2 bumpers. First time out. If you ever get the chance to watch the tape of Warwick, it is unbelievable. He was up against one of Nicky's, who AP was riding. It was AP's first ride back after being injured, and Nicky had said to AP, "I'll give you a winner at Warwick." And this Ballyalton won 18 lengths, and Harry Skelton rode him that day, and Harry couldn't control him. He was just running away at the end. He defied his penalty at Doncaster. Now, people who know the game, to defy a penalty in bumpers takes a good horse to do that. He then ran at Southall in a novice hurdle, got beaten. Ian Williams couldn't believe it, but luckily there was a reason, a physical reason. He had a year off, came back at Uttoxeter 6th of October. Lee flew back from the States to watch him run, won 15 lengths over the wrong trip. It's got a massive engine. It's a very exciting horse, and Ian Williams has been around good horses with Francois Dumas, with Jenny Pittman. He knows what he's talking about. AP's been down to ride him at home, loves him, wants to ride him on Saturday. I really hope he goes over the longer trip, because that's what he wants. He's won over 3 miles before, yet has the speed to win bumpers and a 2 mile hurdle. Ballyalton is the horse to follow this season.
Yeah, you're sounding pretty confident for the weekend.
I'll be gutted if he gets beat.
Declan, what about you? What's catching your eye?
I probably have a list now as long as your arm, to be honest, so I might just rattle off a few names if that's all right. There's a couple in England I like as well, but I'll obviously start with the Irish one. There's Margaret Mullins trains a horse by the name of Martello Tower. Won a bumper last year, quite nicely bred as well. Hasn't been seen this season. I think could be a decent horse for a Mullins, but not Willie. That's Martello Tower. Mouse Morris has a novice hurdler I'm excited about this year by the name of the Dorman. Good Irish point-to-point form behind another horse called Manila For You, who won on Sunday, who's probably another horse that you could mark down. With the right man in Mouse Morris, if he's good enough to get to Cheltenham. You know, Mouse has his own way of training horses for Cheltenham and gives him a break, but you know, time after time they run up and they run the race at Cheltenham. Who else in Ireland have I got? Champagne Fevers, obviously, Defy Logic.
You can give us some English ones as well if you want.
Oh, there is one Irish horse by the name of Marlbrook, M-A-R-L Brook. JP McManus owned. Was one of my friends was actually at Nina the day this lad won his point-to-point. He's a bookmaker with his father, and this guy he's seen some pretty useful pointers, and he said this is the best pointer he's ever seen. He was entered up to go last week, but was pulled out on a due because of the ground. One from Nicky Henderson's yard. I like another point-to-point winner's Clean Sheet. Is a half brother to Nelson's Bridge of Nicky's, who was a decent horse. And I'll give you 2 handicappers that I like. One from Nicky's yard is Megalopolis, who was bitterly disappointing in the Fred Winter last year. And one of the best handicapped horses in training, I think, is Philip Hobbs's Salustu Sunrise, who ran behind Up and Go last year at Cheltenham. If you're struggling to get names and that, you just come up to me at the end, I'll give you the spelling. Because probably along with my accent it's tough enough, so.
Okay, well 6 then from Declan. Nick, do you want to follow that? Have you got a few for us as well?
Yeah, I've got one of Alan King's who, if anybody saw him win at Uttoxeter a few weeks ago, he wouldn't be such a dark one, but it's a long time since the horse has impressed me as much as Carrickmore did when he won his hurdle at Uttoxeter. He was very, very impressive, never out of third gear, won by about 20-25 lengths. I think he's quite high up in the betting for the Albert Bartlett. I think he's a name you'll be hearing a lot more of, so that's Carrickmore. I can give you a Hunter Chaser to follow. I think I'll win the Fox Hunters if anyone's into pointing Hunter Chasers. Alan Hill, who won the race as a jockey, has got a horse in training called Harbour Court, who won at the Hunter Chase meeting at Cheltenham in April time, and then he went on to win at Stratford. He won the John Corbett Cup, which is quite a prestigious event in those kind of circles. I know he thinks the world of this horse, and you know, Salsify, he was lucky last year. Will the luck be on his side again this year, or next year, sorry, who knows. But Harbour Court is a very decent horse of Alan King's, so I'll give those two. And one of Donald McCain. I don't think we've actually mentioned Donald at all tonight, which is slightly unusual, but he had a bumper horse last season called Diamond King, owned by the Whateleys, wishful thinking colours. He won 2 bumpers, one under a penalty, aggregate margin of 35 lengths, and you don't see that very often, one at Wetherby and Bangor. You know, it's an old cliche to say it could be anything, but God, I mean, 2 starts, 2 wins by wide margins. You know, he looks as though he could be very good, so those would be my 3.